Predictions for the next 2 LSU commitments to pop. We've got the names. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Today, we are all recruiting. Don't run and hide, okay? I know some of you love recruiting. It's great. Some of you, it's kind of like, hey, every December, just let me know what I need to know. Well, this is one of those days where you're going to want to hear what we have to say, because this is one of those days where in our convo with Shea Dixon from On 3 The Bengal Tiger, who we have a chance to speak with every week, this warranted taking the full episode today because there is so much going on. Just first consider where we are in the recruiting calendar. So spring football is done. Dead period is over. Coaches have been on the road recruiting. And remember, you're getting toward June when the elite camps happen. So these are the prospect camps, right? When the best prospects come to camp on campus, that's when they earn their offers. A lot of prospects commit over the summer before their high school season starts. And remember, when you're talking about a December signing period, a lot of these guys want the hay in the barn before their high school season because they're playing games on the weekends. And sometimes it's hard to get to visits during their high school season. So it's a very important time in the recruiting calendar. And we're talking about 2026. So the prospects for this upcoming class that are about to sign their letters of intent coming up in December. LSU presently has 9 commitments for the class of 2026. 9 commits for 2026. And our buddy Shea Dixon from On 3 The Bengal Tiger put in 2 recruiting prediction machine projections over at On 3 for the next 2 commitments for this LSU class.
Yeah, both in-state guys for the current class. One of them is a pretty familiar last name, Darius McKinley's younger brother, Darius. He's had an offer for a while. He started at Acadiana this past season, so landed an offer from LSU, a number of other schools, and Dominic is going into year 2, expected Matt to start on the D-line for LSU, a former 5-star, and now Darius being heavily recruited has kind of lined up his slew of SEC visits for June, and then we'll decide soon. I think he wants to do it on his birthday in November. I'd be a bit surprised if he waits that long, but who knows? I think in the end he's going to end up at LSU as a kid that's not just in state, but already has ties to the program with his brother being here. And the other is a much kind of more off the radar name, I would say. But coming out of Winsboro, Dez Ellis, who helped Franklin Parrish an unbelievable year getting to the Dome, but played quarterback, kind of played all over for him, really. But is someone that Corey Raymond offered at corner. And he's your typical Corey Raymond multi-sport athlete, long. And while he's playing corner now, we've seen guys make that transition before, and he does play some defense now. So they really like him at corner. And look, they've got one corner committed in the top 10 nationally, and Hayden Finney out of California. And right now, Ellis is the only guy in Louisiana who Raymond's been pushing for at corner in this crop of rising seniors. So I would keep an eye on it. Not many times they're landing a Franklin Parrish or a Winsboro guy. So Dez Ellis can make a little LSU recent history, at least, if he ends up committing to LSU, which
it seems like that's going to happen as Shea has put in those predictions. Let's take each of those guys here briefly for a quick minute. So I did ask a follow-up to Shea about Darius McKinley as to say, is he only getting the offer because of his last name? And listen, we've seen legacy commitments at times. Leonard Fournette was at LSU. They then offered and signed his brother, Leonard Fournette. Here recently, Jacob Bradford signed with LSU for the class of 2025. His brother, Blaine Bradford's the number 1 safety in the country for 2026. They did not get Blaine Bradford, but Jacob's a member of the class for 2025. He'll be a freshman at LSU. Look at the Weeks brothers. Of course, they took Whit Weeks out of the West Weeks out of the transfer portal from Virginia, and then signed Witt. And now a third Weeks brother is coming to campus this fall after reclassifying. But I often say, you hear me say it all the time, less concerned about your star rating, ranking, all that stuff. It's more about who has offered you. And Darius McKinley's a 3-star. Now, Rivals has him as a 4-star, but On3, 24/7, ESPN, ESPN has him as a 4-star as well. In the composite, he's a 3-star, the number 53 defensive lineman in the country, number 469 nationally. So not a 5-star like his brother, but look at the offers. LSU, Texas A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, Miami, Tennessee, Auburn, Louisville, Syracuse, Baylor, Missouri. He's got massive offers. So sometimes, and Shea also clarified that Darius McKinley just became a starter at Acadiana this year as a junior. So that's one where watch Darius McKinley throughout his senior year. He's already at 6'3.5", 270 pounds as a guy finishing up his junior year in high school right now. So he'll be going into his senior year. He's going to get bigger, and that star rating, that ranking, all that stuff is going to increase throughout the course of this season. So Darius McKinley is one, and then Dez Ellis is the other who Shea mentioned. And here's another guy that's a 3-star, but if you're an everydayer, and shout out, you've heard me say this often. And the example I gave was, talking about a cornerback out of Las Vegas that Brian Polian went and recruited. And the Jeremiah Hughes is who I'm thinking of. And what I always said was, at LSU, you don't need to get on a plane to fly to Las Vegas to recruit a 3-star cornerback. Like, throw a rock from LSU's campus, you're going to hit a 3-star cornerback. And a guy like Dez Ellis is a great example. And I don't mean for that to come across as in any way dismissive of the player. You just heard Shea say it. Dez Ellis is 6'2", 163 pounds. Look at the type of cornerback Corey Raymond recruits. He wants long dudes that look like pterodactyls. I can remember Rashard Robinson in 2013 looking like a toothpick, but he locked down Mike Evans on the road in College Station against Texas A&M. Dude was awesome. Or I guess the game was in Baton Rouge in 2013 as a true freshman. I mean, you can look at PJ Woodland this past year as a freshman. Not very big boned, but long, thin, long, athletic, and played as a freshman despite being a 3-star. Corey Raymond knows what he's looking for. And the point is, if Corey Raymond sees a guy that's 6'2", 160 pounds, who was his high school quarterback and has what he wants physically in a cornerback, come on. We should not question Corey Raymond's eye for talent at cornerback. Brian Polian flying to Las Vegas to recruit a 3-star in Jeremiah Hughes, I got a problem with that. There's a dude from Louisiana who fits the mold from a small school in North Louisiana that very seldom pumps out Power 5 talent. You heard Shea say it right there. So probably flying a bit under the radar, but a dude that Corey Raymond knows and wants in, yes, bring him here, ready for it, all of it. And this is going to be one of those with a guy like Dez Ellis, who he gets the LSU offer, ultimately will commit to LSU, is going to go play his senior year, and will watch that ranking continue to go on a parabolic run-up throughout his senior year. It's just what happens in these recruiting rankings so often, where the recruiting services, let's be honest, it'd be fair to them. There's thousands upon thousands of high schools all over the country with tens or hundreds of thousands of recruitable athletes. And they can't see everybody. But Corey Raymond hears of a guy up in Winsboro and goes and sees him and is like, yup, That's sometimes all it takes to get on the radar, and boom. It's how Tyrann Mathieu and Justin Jefferson were 2 stars. Jacob Hester was a 2-star. And then LSU found him, and they blew up. And I think you might see a similar thing there with Dez Ellis. But Shea Dixon, predictions in for Darius McKinley, Dez Ellis as the next 2 commitments for LSU's class of 2026, the class that will sign this coming December. We'll certainly keep you posted. Now, the biggest available member of the class of 2026 is Lamar Brown, the offensive lineman from U-High. We got an update on him and what happens if LSU doesn't land quarterback Bowe Bentley out of Texas. What's their plan after that? Shea gives that answer next. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's game-winning shot, a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. And FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways to play than ever before, and to play smart and to win big. So you want to look at the conference finals, which we're in right now. My goodness, how much value on a team like Minnesota in this series with Ant, one of the best young players in the league. You want to take a long shot on Minnesota to win the series? Do it. How about the Knicks trying to make the NBA finals for the first time since 1970? Man, so much to bet on over at FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. So we've talked about who we are projecting to be the next commitments for the class of 2026. The biggest remaining prospect out there is Lamar Brown. As we all know, Lamar Brown, if you follow recruiting at all, is a name you are familiar with. He is the top uncommitted prospect in the state of Louisiana. He is a 2-way player, offensive, defensive lineman from U-High, literally on LSU's campus. And if you look at the on-3 composite, Lamar Brown is the number 8 player in the country, not offensive or defensive lineman, number 8 overall. He's the number 8 overall player in the country. He is listed now as an athlete because he's both an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman. Although on this show about a month ago when Lamar Brown was with us, you heard him say point blank, LSU is recruiting him as a defensive lineman. That's where they like him, as a defensive lineman, not as an offensive lineman. So at one point he was the top interior offensive lineman in the country, but more and more teams are recruiting him on the defensive side of the ball. That's where LSU wants him to, by the way. So he's listed as an athlete, as the number 1 athlete in the country, the number 1 player in Louisiana. And Lamar Brown told us here point blank, LSU is his favorite. He really has maybe a longing eye toward Texas A&M, but we learned this week that Lamar Brown is going to take an official visit to Texas. So can the Longhorns get involved? Here's Shea Dixon.
Yeah, that's kind of replaced Florida State, I believe. But look, I don't think that. And I listened to your interview, and Lamar's does a good job of articulating kind of how he's feeling about the process and where he's leaning. And I don't think he's going to go too far from home. So LSU and A&M were 2 teams that have been on him a long time that made sense for a number of reasons. And then Texas has not only been recruiting him, but to be able to get an official visit, I think, is notable. They, are a team in East Texas. It's not like it's a super far drive, easy flight, and also a school that's got a lot of buzz on the recruiting trail, just like LSU. Not like LSU's got the number 1 class, but Texas has had a kind of impressive run here over the past couple of cycles with recruiting guys, and they've continued to try to dip their toe in Louisiana after the Arch Manning and Derek Williams years, which were, I guess, a few years back now, but haven't had that same big type of success recently. Obviously, Lamar being the number 1 player in the state is someone that they would love to get. I just don't think – I think it's too late in the game. I'm with you. I believe that LSU is the leader. I also think that the biggest competition is A&M, and anybody after that surging beyond those teams, even Texas, would surprise me.
The one caveat I want to throw out for Shea there is saying it's too late in the game. In the NIL era, it's never too late. Bryce Underwood proved that. And I hate that I always bring that up. And if you're an everydayer, you've heard me bring that up a bunch, and I apologize for it. Actually, I don't apologize for it. It's the thing we have to be reminded of. And it's why, in part, a lot of you, and I read your comments, and when you tweet me or post here and you say, I don't care about commitments anymore, they don't mean anything. Let's be honest. High school athletes and commitments have flipped forever. It's a tale as old as time. For as long as there have been recruiting and commitments, guys have flipped. It's not a new thing. The reason for which they flip publicly is very much rooted largely in NIL right now. Texas has as much money as anybody. I'll never count Texas out of any recruiting battle because if they really, Cade Phillips is a great example of that. 5-star cornerback, LSU had him locked in. He was in. And on signing day, he flips and signs with Texas. Why? Texas ponied up. LSU was offering him about $800K. They went up to $1 million actually to try to keep him, and Texas went higher. So he went to Texas. It can happen. But Lamar Brown is one that LSU has invested a tremendous amount of resource in recruiting. They want him on the defensive line, and I love him on the defensive line, by the way. Not on Bowe Davis's defensive line. Bowe Davis wants 6'4", 350-pound defensive lineman. He wants space-eating defensive linemen. Kyle Williams wants dudes that look and play like Kyle Williams. 290-pound defensive linemen that are fast, agile, strong hands that are going to create pressure and havoc up the middle. That's Lamar Brown. Freakish athlete. Lamar Brown right now is listed at 6'3.5", 285. Not a 350-pound defensive tackle, a 285-pounder who get a little bigger, but will be fast, explosive, aggressive, and will create havoc on the interior. He's perfect. And you're losing Jacoby and Guillory after this year. Bernard Gooden, the transfer from South Florida, is in his last year. Who knows if Sean Washington's back? You had 3 incoming freshmen this year that are taking a step, but Don McKinley, Ahmad Bro will be back. Lamar Brown could very easily, as a freshman, fit in. I'm not saying he'd be a 50-snap per game guy, but he could fit into a rotation very easily as a true freshman in 2026. Now, Lamar Brown may be the most important prospect for the class of 2026 because he's the top prospect in the state of Louisiana, and you want to keep the best players from Louisiana here. And if you don't get Lamar Brown, he's likely ending up at Texas A&M or Texas, another SEC school. So he may be the most important player. The most important position, however, is quarterback. And we learned that Bowe Bentley out of Texas is down to his final 2. He's eliminated Georgia. It'll be between LSU and Oklahoma. He'll take official visit to LSU at the end of May. The last weekend in May, he'll make an official visit to Oklahoma the first weekend in June. Shortly thereafter, we should have a decision. But what if Bowe Bentley picks Oklahoma? Does LSU have a plan B?
Yeah, look, Joe Sloan is not going to, be sitting with nobody, no options to turn to if Bentley ends up going to Oklahoma, given LSU was playing from behind here from the start. They've been on other guys. Now, look, they could very well get Bentley. I think that a lot of people feel that one could go either way. But if not, I'm on the side of the argument that likes that he's not taking all of July to take visits and is pushing things up, because if you end up missing on him, you still have all of June. You still have the rest of June, which is camp season. You could bring guys in to throw. You could bring guys in for visits, all of that, because in July it goes dead. You have one open weekend after that. It's dead again in August, and then you're in football season. So I'd rather not have a guy deciding in July at a position like quarterback to where you don't really have much room to pivot and get a guy onto campus quickly that you might like next. So, yes, I think if it's not Bentley, we will quickly find out kind of who is number 2 on that list of guys that are in the.
If it's not Bentley, it's a transfer. And I hate the thought of going back-to-back recruiting classes without taking a quarterback in the high school ranks. But it just might be LSU's lot. You have to reframe how you look at the position. Because effectively, signing Michael Van Buren out of the transfer portal replaces Ricky Collins. So that's your young veteran quarterback who made 9 starts a year ago. You've got Colin Hurley in tow. And then maybe it's you just add another transfer player like you did a year ago with A.J. Swan to provide you some depth, and then you figure it out for 2027 with a bumper crop at quarterback in the state of Louisiana, including Elijah Haven, who's the number one quarterback in the country. But there's a handful of quarterbacks in the state that would all be SEC prospects for 2027. It would be so unconventional, but you see it happen. I mean, Ohio State's done it. I mean, they just won a national championship with Will Howard coming in year one. Riley Leonard led Notre Dame to the national championship game in his first year as the starter. Before Riley Leonard, they had 1 year with Sam Hartman before that, who transferred in from Wake Forest. So it's unconventional and it's uncomfortable. But I think we have to remember what we're seeing with Garrett Nussmeier is atypical. You know that. Like, we all know it. Guys don't stay 5 years. Nuss is an outlier. But it's just a reminder to say, look, you would love to get Bowe Bentley. Of course you would. And you would love for him to stay 4 or 5 years and be a 3-year starter and win championships here. But he might go to Oklahoma. And if he goes to Oklahoma, you're not signing an elite quarterback in the 2026 class. And that would be back-to-back classes, meaning you would have no choice but to go back into the transfer portal to get another player like you did a year ago with A.J. Swan to give you some quality depth behind after Nussmeier leaves. Michael Van Buren, Colin Hurley, provided he stays, and then whatever else may be there. But it would be a very unusual and uncomfortable situation if LSU doesn't get Bowe Bentley and they go back-to-back classes without signing a quarterback. But that's one we got to keep an eye on. Okay, speaking of keeping an eye on the future, and I mentioned quarterback for 2027, On3 has updated the On 300 with the top 300 players in America, and my goodness, was Louisiana well represented. We'll get to that to wrap up Locked on LSU, your team every day. We've spent a lot of time talking about 2026, the prospects that are going to sign coming up in this coming December with Darius McKinley and Dez Ellis and Lamar Brown and Bowe Bentley and some of the top remaining prospects that LSU is looking for. Look, keep in mind the Tigers right now have the number one class in the country with only 9 commitments. They're going to get in the mid-20s. They're going to end up near 25 commitments. So you're still talking about another dozen and a half commits that are going to join this class before December. So long way to go still for 2026. But it's never too early to start looking at 2027. And as much as we have talked about 2026 being a bumper crop in the state, which it absolutely is, as we've talked about, Lamar Brown obviously being the number 8 overall player in the country right here, from right here in Baton Rouge. Richard Anderson, the number 1 defensive lineman in the country, who's an LSU commitment. Blaine Bradford, unfortunately, who committed to Ohio State out of Catholic High, is the number 30 overall prospect. Jabari Mack, an LSU commit, number 78 nationally. Aiden Hall, an LSU commit, number 88 nationally. We got 5 players from Louisiana in the top 88 nationally. Bryson Martinez, an LSU commit, number 111 nationally. Kenny Darby, an LSU commitment, number 149 nationally. So 7 in the top 150. And 5 of the 7 are LSU commits. And it's thought that Lamar Brown is going to end up at LSU. But 2027 may end up blowing 2026 out the water. Here's Shay with the update.
Yeah, they updated the On 300 to the top 300 recruits in America for the 2027 class, which are all the guys that are a year younger. These guys will be playing as juniors this fall. But boys start at the top. The number 3 player in America is Zyron Forstall coming out of Jesuit. Anyone who's a Jesuit fan knows who he is. He's wearing 0 out there, and is ranked as the number 2 edge rusher because the number 1 overall player is an edge rusher as well. But to have a top 3 overall prospect in Louisiana and to be a D lineman edge rusher is a big deal. And then you look up and knocking on the door of top 10 overall is the number 1 interior offensive lineman, Albert Simeon. He's playing over in Lake Charles at Sam Houston. He's a guy who's been, like all these guys I'm talking about, have got LSU offers already. He's been on campus a bunch, so they'll be a priority. So right there, you've got an O lineman and a D lineman, Matt, who are viewed as 2 of the 11 best players right now on the On3 rankings for that class. And then down inside the top 15 overall, the new number 2 already ranked high. We had him in the top 30, and then he just tore up the track scene this spring, which, obviously you love to see because that translates so well in football, certainly at receiver. So LSU, or Louisiana, I should say, home to 3 of the top 15, but 13 total guys in the top 300. So multiple safeties. Aiden Anding's younger brother, Jaden Anding, out of Ruston, made a big jump into the top 200 as one of the top safeties in the country. So we talk about it every couple of years, like, hey, look, Louisiana's about to be deep again, and that's what it'll be next year. And look, I think double-digit of these guys already have LSU offers pretty early on, if not close to it. So LSU's going to be on them early and often, and in the NIL and Rev and all that days, the strategy doesn't change. You're trying to get Louisiana's best locked up, and I think with the staff having been on the road, Matt, the past few weeks, again, that they have familiarized themselves pretty well with. It was good early on for next year at state, and I think offers are about.
I apologize that the phone kind of gave out there a little bit at the end, but you kind of got the gist of what Shea was saying for the class of 2027. Zyron Forstall, the number 2 overall player in the country. Elijah Haven from Dunham, the quarterback, number 9 nationally. Ahmad Hudson, another quarterback in the state, number 14 nationally. Easton Royal, number 17 nationally. Albert Simeon, number 25 nationally. Peyton Houston out of Evangel, number 80 nationally. My goodness, what an incredible year it's shaping up to be for 2027 in the state of Louisiana. As good as 2026 is, 2027 may end up being even better. You look at guys like Jaden Miles from Catholic High, the running back, number 98 nationally. Malachi Ziegler, the quarterback out of Benton, number 95 nationally. I mean, you were talking about, just look at the quarterbacks. Haven is the number 1 quarterback. Hudson, they list forgive me. Ahmad Hudson is the tight end from Ruston. Forgive me. Haven, the number 1 quarterback. Peyton Houston out of Evangel, the quarterback, is the number 8 quarterback. Malachi Ziegler out of Benton is the number 10 quarterback. So 3 of the top 10 quarterbacks in America are all from Louisiana. A bumper crop, to say the very least, for LSU and for the state of Louisiana in 2027. And Brian Kelly and his staff got to be opportunistic. Okay, as it continues, we'll have plenty to say about it. Again, I told you, we had a lot of meat on the bone today here for recruiting, which is why we did a full recruiting episode of Locked On LSU. Hey, thanks so much for making us your first listen. Now for your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings, but be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you are on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. Let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day for Locked On LSU, your team every day.